Hello everyone, welcome to the Power Academy. Here in this topic we will going to discuss the Russia's nuclear deterrence and why Russia alerts its nuclear forces. What will be the consequences for the world and especially for the Europe, and all other aspects will going to be discussed thoroughly in this topic. As we all know that the Russian invasions of the Ukraine is getting uglier day by day. Russia is trying to install a Russian influenced government in Kiev to blunt the European Union and NATO's influence all across Europe. The Ukraine is a strategically important nation in Europe that actually built the bridge between the Russia and the Western Europe. And the Ukraine's NATO membership means the US's weapon in Ukraine. So that blow the Russia's security, because a cruise missile like the Tomahawk will going to take only 35 minutes to reach the Moscow from Kiev, and when the USA will going to have the hypersonic missile, and that missile will going to take only 5 minutes to reach the Moscow from Kiev. So that will going to blow the Russia. So that is why the Russia is very much concerned. And another reasons for these escalations is the Ukraine's adamant nature to be a member of the NATO. That is why the Russia is doing the invasion in the Ukraine. And the Russia simply do not want the Ukraine to go into the clutches of the USA through the NATO. They want Ukraine to be a non-aligned member or non-aligned nation that the India used to be during the 1945 to 1991. So that is the Russia's concern. Russia simply want Ukraine to be a non-aligned nation, not to be a member of the NATO. As the situation in the Ukraine is not improving, rather getting worse day by day, now in a shocking move that unearthed the long buried fears from Cold War era, the Putin ordered his defense chiefs to put the country's nuclear deterrence forces on the high alert. The international forces are already swearing over the Russia's invasions of Ukraine, and the Putin's order have crossed further alarm. After doing the Russian president defended its act by saying that the West is continuously making the aggressive statements against Russia. He again also said by making a statement that the announcement does not mean that Russia intended to use the weapon. So Russia is doing only to defend its territory from the Western forces. The US immediately condemned his decisions made by the President Putin, calling it an unacceptable escalation. Moving to alert the status likely makes it easier for the Moscow to launch the weapons more quickly. So this is a very, very tough situation for the world powers. If that is the nuclear deterrence, then the other nations also have the nuclear powers. There are so many nations. There are at least 8 to 9 nations. They have the nuclear weapons. The Russia itself have the 6,275 nuclear weapons. USA have 5,500 nuclear weapons in total. China has 350 nuclear weapons. France and the UK have 350 and 290 nuclear weapons simultaneously. South Asian nation, India and the Pakistan have the nuclear weapon. The Russia has a nuclear weapon along with the North Korea. North Korea also have the nuclear. Maybe it is less than 10, but they have the nuclear weapon. And Israel also have the nuclear weapon. That has not been declared by the Israel yet, but they have the nuclear weapons. This kind of situation is pushing this world into a nuclear war. So these numbers are very scary and big for the world to consume the nuclear war. And the Russia and the USA always in the readiness with their nuclear fleet. They both have the nuclear capable submarines with the nuclear ballistic missiles. So they have to take some cautious move in a slippery slope, because any move will push this world into a nuclear war. And activating the nuclear deterrence means that Russia will going to activate its nuclear bombers. So as the Russia is activating its nuclear bomber, that means the USA will going to activate its nuclear bomber too. that we will going to see in the future. So this will going to lead to a nuclear weapon race again after the 1945, whatever the scene we saw during the Cold War, that kind of scene will going to be revived. So this madness has to stop. Russia has to stop these kind of things, and the USA also stop pushing the Russia getting into something uncomfortable position. Anyway, the amid the mounting tensions, one good thing has happened, which is the Ukraine has announced that a delegation from country had agreed to meet the Russian officials for talk. But the Kremlin's ultimate aims in the Ukraine and what steps might be enough to quench the thrust of the Moscow, which is unclear to the Ukrainian officials. Previously, the Ukrainian President Zelensky offered the Russia to talk in the Belarusian border city Gomel. But the Ukraine refused to talk in the Belarus because the Belarus is directly helping Russia to launch the operation within the Ukraine. Russia is firing its cruise missile by using the Belarus. Now, the second talk is happening right now, has happened actually yesterday. Because this time the talk held on the bank of the Pripyat river, somewhere the location is undisclosed by both sides. The main purpose of that discussion was to discuss the ceasefire on the territory of the Ukraine, but it failed miserably. It failed miserably due to the Ukraine President Zelensky's same European Union rhetoric. Zelensky is too determined to join the European Union along with the NATO. That is making the things very, very uncomfortable for the Ukraine and for whole the Europe. During that meeting, the Putin and the French President Emmanuel Macron was on the phonic conversation or discussion. During that talk, Putin agrees to halt all air strike by using the tanks against the civilians, against the Ukrainian civilians, and the Macron requested the Putin to end that violence and come to a diplomatic table. That two leaders agreed to speak again in some days in the future. So the things are getting melted slowly, but it will going to take some time, and the West have to give some edge to the Russia to being melted, because the Russia is in the position in which they cannot compromise their strategic issue. Ukraine is very, very strategic place for the Russia. So according to me, the Russia have to stop this madness. At least they have to stop this nuclear madness right now. The nuclear war means the end of the world, the end of the humanity, the end of the human civilization. And the one miscalculation could make the things much, much worse. And the Russia cannot afford this war anymore, because the West is sanctioning everything from the Russian origin. After the declaring the nuclear deterrence, the European Union blamed the Russian planes, they banned the Russian planes, then blamed the Russia, then banned the Russian plane from the EU airspace. The FIFA and the UEFA banned the Russian national team and the all Russian clubs to play and join any kind of future tournaments regarding the football. The US and the Europe put the ban on the Putins and the Lavrov's overseas assets. Some Russian banks has been barred to do the business using the SWIFT transaction. The USA citizens have been barred to do the business with the Russian central bank. So these war have blown out into an economical war rather than the war fought against each other by using the weapons. Now it is the time for the Russia to think strategically, to save its economy, to save its population, to save its global image. Maybe the Russia is trying to regain its lost USSR image, whatever the image they usually have after the 1945 Second World War. They are trying to revive those images, but this is not the time. This is not the right time to regain that image. Something which has gone, it is gone, because this is the time of the democracy. This is the time of the rule and the law all across the world. So Russia cannot simply capture in democratic nations by saying that they are trying to revive the USSR. That will not going to happen. The Russia have to focus on its economy first, and also they have to keep their strategic interest alive. They have to come to and discussion tables with the European Union and the other big nations of the world, because then nobody is talking about the Russia's nobody is talking about the Russia's in the favor of the Russia. Everybody is talking in the favor of the USA, because nobody is talking about the USA's dirty war in the Vietnam or Iraq and the Afghanistan. USA has also fought this kind of war all across the world. They attacked the Iraq in the name of WMD, the weapon of mass destruction. They attacked the Vietnam in the name of communism. They attacked the Afghanistan in the name of terrorism. But peoples were also there. But the USA did not care about the peoples of that time. But they are lecturing the world that Russia have to be concerned about the peoples of the Ukraine, those who are living under the democracy. But the peoples are the peoples, whether they are living under the democracy or the autocracy, they are the peoples. The human right comes first. The USA stop lecturing the Russia. They have to come to a solution. They have to push the Russia to get into a negotiation table. Nothing will go on one-sidedly, and USA is trying to push everything against the Russia. The USA's biggest defense against the Russia is the Western media. Western media houses are being used by the Russian government, USA's government. They are pushing their agenda through these news channels throughout the world, across the world. That is the advantage of the USA at this time. And so, to understand the Ukrainian crisis, the peoples have to read the books, have to read the history, have to read some of the manuscripts that have been left by some of the neutral historians. They do not have to blindly follow the newspapers and the other things those has been written by some of the renowned editors. The editors are biased. Somehow, if I am an editor, then I would going to write it down something in the favor of the someone. So you have to read the history, then understand what is going on in the Ukraine from the point of view of the Russia and from the point of view of the USA. That will be the very critical things that the peoples, those who are preparing for the examination, they have to do it. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.